Hey guys, welcome to Found Flicks. After what seems like forever, Bates Motel is back for its 5th and final season. I really like the show, and last season was its strongest yet. And of course it ended with the huge event of Norma's death, though we know she will still be around in Norman's mind as Mother. Even though we all knew Norma's death was inevitable, the show handled it in a compelling way and left us wondering where things will go from here. Which sets us up nicely for season 5, which ties the season story directly into the timeline of Psycho, something I've hoped would happen from the beginning. So it makes sense that season 5 picks up 2 years after the events of last season. This helps to have plenty happen between seasons and almost feels like a resetting of the story in a post-Norma world. A lot of the premise is setting up the new chess pieces for the story that we know will eventually all come crumbling down. We see that Norman is now much more deeply entrenched in his relationship with the Mother personality. The reality he believes is that Norma faked her death in order to protect Norman, and now she is housebound in order to keep up the ruse of her being dead. Of course, we all know she is actually dead, and I really like how their breakfast scene plays out with a warm look, where they convince themselves that this is their paradise. But then Norman leaves and Norma disappears, and it reveals that the house is actually dark and cold, completely messy and in shambles, which is a great visual representation of how Norman himself is mentally at this point. He's unable to remember things to a greater extent and has become consumed by the mental fantasy he's created. Then Norman heads off to the newly reopened hardware store to buy paint, and he sees someone that looks similar to Mother. This is Madeline Loomis, and it's safe to say that Norman is pretty smitten with her. She is pretty, but more importantly looks like his dear mother. I almost had wished they had gotten Vera's sister Thaisa to play her, but that might have been too much. But their love connection is quickly dashed, as unfortunately for Norman, Madeline is married. And if the name Loomis doesn't ring a bell, it's Samuel Loomis that she's married to. Madeline is a new character for the show, but Sam was a big part of the original Psycho and is the boyfriend of Marion Crane. He was deeply affected by Marion's death and helped in the investigation to find her killer. Also in Psycho, he is divorced, whereas in the show it appears they are still married. And we do meet Sam in the episode as well, but he doesn't reveal his real name to Norman. He's played by Austin Nichols, who you might remember as Douche Lord Spencer on The Walking Dead. He checks in at the Bates Motel with a mysterious woman, obviously Marion, even though we don't see Riri at all this episode, and gives his name as David Davidson. But Norman is onto him already, putting him in room number 1. That being the infamous room right next to the office with a peephole so Norman can spy on the guests. Things start getting steamy in the room, and Norman just can't help himself, getting maybe a little too into it. But right when it starts getting good, he's hilariously interrupted by a phone call from Mother.
I'm just coming. I'll be right there.
So here's where I think this particular plot is going. Norman has already seen Sam and Marion together, and once he figures out that's Madeline's husband, I'm sure he will tell her in a bid to get her for himself. We also know that Norman eventually kills Marion as well, so it's easy to see that Sam will be wanting blood from Norman for ruining his life. I like that they might make Norman directly responsible for breaking up their marriage, and it's a good shakeup of the original story. But will Sam be quite as involved as he was in the original and the one to stop Norman in the end? I kinda doubt it, but he will become a problem for Norman soon enough. I think it's Romero that will have the honor of taking Norman down. Speaking of Romero, he's still in jail for all the skeezy stuff he's done in the past to cover his own ass. Even worse, his parole gets denied, so all Romero can do for now is go all apeshit on punching bags and bide his time. And it doesn't seem like Romero is interested in getting Norman the by the books way anymore. Forget that pesky evidence. He just wants him dead. That's the only justice Romero is concerned with anymore. Death justice. And even if still in prison, he's resourceful enough to be able to contact someone outside and send them after Norman. But it doesn't turn out well for that guy, as Norma/Norman kills him first. And Norman learns of their connection when about to dispose the guy's body, and his phone rings. Mother tells him not to answer it, but he does anyway, and it's a befuddled Romero on the other end saying hello? I bet Norman knows exactly who it is and realizes even if Romero is rotting in prison, can still be a threat. And I honestly doubt Romero will be staying that much longer in jail anyway, so Norman better watch out. The boogeyman is coming. And it's interesting as we leave this scene with Norman. We see him now without Mother in the middle of the water completely alone. This was another cool visual representation of Norman's situation at the moment. He's only now realizing that he's out to sea, no shore or relief in sight, and huge problems surrounding him from every corner. And on top of that, he seems to, for the moment, realize he is in fact in it all by himself. The dark paradise he created is in serious trouble. Finally, let's check in with our lovebirds Dylan and Emma and their perfect life that is sure to fall apart at any moment. That's how it works in shows like this, folks. Things are fine, then they go to shit. It's called drama. Dylan is still working at the beer company or whatever and is getting a promotion soon. Good for you. They also have a newborn baby, and now that they've cut the Bates out of their lives, everything seems to be going really well for them. But then Caleb shows up out of the blue and it's pretty awkward at first. See, I told you, things are already getting messed up. But Dylan is open to giving Caleb a chance and allows him to stay with them for a few days. We know this is due to Caleb's help in getting Dylan money for Emma's surgery. He couldn't have done it without his father's help, so he feels obligated to help him. He explains the situation finally to Emma, but she's not as open, kicking Caleb to the curb. She doesn't know exactly what the deal is between them, but with Caleb around feels that every day would be a lie. And Emma is smart enough to realize that keeping those people out of their family is for the best. So where's Caleb off to next? I'd be willing to guess back to Norma's. He says he doesn't have anywhere to go, and now that he can't stay with Dylan, and considering his uncanny ability to show up where he's not wanted, would head back to Bates Motel. I wonder if he might just kind of sneak his way in and end up finding Norma's body while Norman is out dealing with Romero or any of his other problems. He tries to confront Norman with it, but now Norman has to kill Caleb. But they could do it with Norman as Norma, basically a final burying of the hatchet between Caleb and Norma before she kills him. And after a while, Dylan, feeling guilty about how Caleb left, tries to contact him and isn't successful. He also winds up heading to Bates Motel looking for Caleb and gets sucked into the craziness all over again. So long, perfect life. So that's pretty much it for the premiere, but there's still a bunch of exciting stuff set up that will pay off before too long. It sounds like Norman is really going to have his hands full, as pretty much everyone will have reasons for wanting him dead. Not to mention having to deal with his memory loss and his mother personality doing things behind his back with her own motives. Geez, it sounds like it's going to be an intense season. If you guys want to see more Bates Motel videos, make sure to let me know by hitting that like button and commenting down below. And now that there's no more IMDb boards, why not talk about the show here? What do you guys think of Rihanna playing Marion Crane? I personally think she's a cool choice and is said to be a big fan of the show. Also, we are supposed to be getting more of Marion's story than in the movie. Could be interesting. So what did you guys think of the premiere? Are you excited to see the show tie more directly into Psycho? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching Found Flicks. See you next time.